On this mountain, fire will fall from heaven. There is a mountain in the northern kingdom of Israel, Mount Carmel. It rises from the Mediterranean coast, a place of ancient worship, of shrines and altars, of prayers offered to gods whose names have been whispered for generations. The wind blows across its summit. The sea crashes below. And on this particular day, the mountain will witness something that has never happened before and will never happen again. On this mountain, a single man will stand against 850 prophets. On this mountain, fire will fall from heaven. On this mountain, the question that has haunted humanity since the beginning will finally get an answer. Who is God? Not which God is stronger. Not which God is more popular. Not which God has more followers or better marketing or more impressive temples. But who is actually God? Who is real? Who answers? Who shows up? This is not a comfortable story. It was never meant to be. It will challenge everything you think you know about faith, about power, about what it means to stand alone when everyone else has chosen a different path. This is the story of Elijah, the prophet. The troubler of Israel, they called him. The man who appeared out of nowhere and disappeared into mystery. The man who never died but was taken up in a whirlwind. But before the whirlwind, before the chariot of fire, before any of that, there was a mountain. And a choice. And 450 prophets of Baal. And 400 prophets of Asherah. And one man who believed that the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob was not dead, not silent, not absent, but very much alive and about to prove it in the most spectacular way imaginable. This is that story. And if you think you know how it ends, you might be surprised at how it gets there. Because the path to fire from heaven goes through 3 years of drought, through a widow's jar of oil that never runs empty, through a dead boy brought back to life, through confrontation with a king, through mockery and blood and desperation. It goes through the slow revelation that God is not interested in being one option among many. He is not interested in sharing the stage. He is not interested in tolerance and coexistence and everyone getting along. God is interested in one thing: the truth. And on Mount Carmel, the truth will be revealed in flames. To understand what happens on the mountain, we need to understand how Israel got here. How a nation chosen by God, delivered from slavery in Egypt, given the promised land, blessed beyond measure, ended up worshiping a Canaanite storm god on every high place and under every green tree. This is a story of compromise, of gradual drift, of decisions that seemed reasonable at the time but led to catastrophe. It starts with Solomon. Welcome back to our channel. Your participation has made our journey here very interesting. Before we continue with the story, please support our channel by subscribing, clicking the like button, and turning on notifications. Please leave a comment and suggest other video topics you would like us to work on. Thank you for your support. Now let's get back to the story. Solomon, the wise king. The builder of the temple. The man who had it all. Wisdom, wealth, power, fame, everything a king could want. And 700 wives. And 300 concubines. Now, God had warned Israel about this. When they first asked for a king, God said through Moses, the king must not acquire many wives for himself, or his heart will turn away. Solomon acquired many wives. Daughters of foreign kings. Political alliances sealed with marriage. Women from Moab, Ammon, Edom, Sidon, from the Hittites. Women who brought their gods with them. And the text says, when Solomon was old, his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not wholly true to the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father. So Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived, built high places for Chemosh the god of Moab, and for Molech the god of the Ammonites, and for the gods of all his foreign wives, who made offerings and sacrificed to their gods. And the Lord was angry with Solomon. God appeared to him twice. Twice, God spoke directly to Solomon. And still, Solomon's heart turned away. So God said, I will surely tear the kingdom from you and will give it to your servant. Yet for the sake of David your father I will not do it in your days, but I will tear it out of the hand of your son. However, I will not tear away all the kingdom, but I will give one tribe to your son, for the sake of David my servant and for the sake of Jerusalem that I have chosen. One generation of compromise. That is all it took. Solomon dies. His son Rehoboam becomes king. And immediately the kingdom splits. The northern 10 tribes rebel. They make Jeroboam their king. And Jeroboam has a problem. The temple is in Jerusalem. Jerusalem is in Judah, the southern kingdom. If his people keep going to Jerusalem to worship, their hearts will turn back to Rehoboam. He will lose the kingdom. So Jeroboam makes a decision. He makes 2 golden calves. He sets one in Bethel, one in Dan. And he says to the people, you have gone up to Jerusalem long enough. Behold your gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt. Your gods. plural. The same words Aaron used at the foot of Mount Sinai when he made the golden calf. The same rebellion. The same lie. And the people buy it. They start worshiping the golden calves. And once you start down that road, once you compromise on who God is, once you create God in your own image instead of letting God reveal himself on his terms, the slide is inevitable. From golden calves to Canaanite gods is not a big step. The Canaanites worshipped Baal, the storm god, the fertility god, the god of rain and harvest and prosperity. And Israel, living among the Canaanites, starts to think maybe we need Baal too. Maybe the Lord God is good for some things, but Baal controls the weather. Baal makes the crops grow. Baal brings the rain. Maybe we can worship both. Maybe we can hedge our bets. Maybe we do not have to choose. King after king in the northern kingdom does evil in the sight of the Lord. The text repeats it like a drumbeat. He did evil in the sight of the Lord. He walked in the way of Jeroboam and in his sin which he made Israel to sin. Evil, evil, evil. For 200 years this goes on, until we get to Ahab. Ahab son of Omri becomes king of Israel. And the text says something chilling. Ahab the son of Omri did evil in the sight of the Lord, more than all who were before him. More than all who were before him. That is saying something. There have been a lot of evil kings. But Ahab surpasses them all. And here is how. The text says, and as if it had been a light thing for him to walk in the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, he took for his wife Jezebel the daughter of Ethbaal king of the Sidonians, and went and served Baal and worshipped him. As if it had been a light thing. Worshipping golden calves was not enough for Ahab. That was too tame. Too half-hearted. Too much of a compromise. Ahab goes all in. He marries Jezebel. Now Jezebel is not just any woman. Her father, Ethbaal, is the king of Sidon. His name means with Baal. He is a priest of Baal who murdered his way to the throne. Jezebel is raised in the worship of Baal. It is her religion, her culture, her identity, her power. And when she marries Ahab and becomes queen of Israel, she brings Baal with her. Not as one god among many. As the god. The text says Ahab erected an altar for Baal in the house of Baal, which he built in Samaria. And Ahab made an Asherah. He built a temple to Baal. In Samaria. The capital of Israel. The center of the nation God chose to be his own people. And he made an Asherah pole. A symbol of the goddess Asherah, Baal's consort. This is not syncretism. This is not blending. This is replacement. Ahab is trying to turn Israel into a Baal-worshipping nation. And Jezebel helps him. She supports 450 prophets of Baal. She supports 400 prophets of Asherah. She feeds them at her table. And then she starts killing the prophets of the Lord. The text does not give us details. We just get one line later. Jezebel cut off the prophets of the Lord. Cut off. The Hebrew word is kareth. It means to cut down, to destroy, to eliminate. Jezebel is systematically murdering anyone who proclaims the Lord as God. A man named Obadiah, who is in charge of Ahab's household but secretly fears the Lord, hides 100 prophets in caves and feeds them bread and water. But the rest? Killed. This is the situation when our story begins. The northern kingdom of Israel is ruled by the most evil king in its history, married to a murderous queen who is hell-bent on eradicating the worship of the true God and replacing it with Baal worship. The prophets of the Lord are dead or in hiding. The people are confused, scared, or seduced by the prosperity that Baal worship promises. And God seems silent, absent, irrelevant. And then out of nowhere a man appears. His name is Elijah. Elijah the Tishbite. That is all we know about him initially. He is from Tishbe, a small town in Gilead, east of the Jordan River. A nothing place, a nowhere place. No introduction, no genealogy, no credentials, no explanation of how he became a prophet or when God called him or what his qualifications are. He just appears. And the first words out of his mouth are a declaration of war. He walks up to King Ahab and says, "As the Lord, the God of Israel, lives before whom I stand, there shall be neither dew nor rain these years, except by my word." Read that again. As the Lord, the God of Israel, lives. Not Baal. The Lord. The covenant God. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The God who brought Israel out of Egypt. The God Ahab and Jezebel are trying to replace. That God lives. And because he lives, there will be no rain. No dew. Nothing. For years. Except by my word. This is astonishing. Elijah is claiming authority over the weather. And why is that significant? Because Baal is the storm god. Baal is the god of rain and fertility. Baal is the one the Canaanites pray to for good harvests and full crops. Elijah is saying your God is useless. Baal does not control the rain. The Lord does. And the rain is stopping. Right now. And then, before Ahab can respond, before guards can seize him, before anyone can process what just happened, Elijah leaves. The text says, "And the word of the Lord came to him, Depart from here and turn eastward and hide yourself by the brook Cherith, which is east of the Jordan. You shall drink from the brook, and I have commanded the ravens to feed you there." God tells Elijah to hide. What? Because Jezebel is killing prophets. If Elijah stays, he will be next. So Elijah goes to the brook Cherith. And something extraordinary happens. Ravens bring him bread and meat in the morning and bread and meat in the evening, and he drinks from the brook. Ravens. Unclean birds according to the law. Birds that eat carrion and dead things. These birds are feeding the prophet of God. It is as if God is saying, I can use anything to accomplish my purposes. Even unclean birds. Even things you would never expect. But here is the thing about brooks fed by rain. When there is no rain, brooks dry up. And after a while, the brook Cherith dries up, because there was no rain in the land. So God sends Elijah somewhere else. God says to Elijah, "Arise, go to Zarephath, which belongs to Sidon, and dwell there. Behold, I have commanded a widow there to feed you." Zarephath, which belongs to Sidon. Sidon as in Jezebel's homeland. Sidon as in the heart of Baal worship. God is sending his prophet into enemy territory. And not just anywhere in enemy territory. To a widow. Widows in the ancient world are the most vulnerable people in society. They have no husband to provide for them, no son to care for them, no social safety net. They are one step away from starvation. And God says, "I have commanded a widow there to feed you." How do you command a widow who does not know you exist? Elijah does not question it. He goes. When he comes to the gate of the city, he sees a widow gathering sticks. He calls to her and says, "Bring me a little water in a vessel that I may drink." She goes to bring it. As she is going, he calls to her and says, "Bring me a morsel of bread in your hand." And she stops. She turns. And she says, "As the Lord your God lives, I have nothing baked, only a handful of flour in a jar and a little oil in a jug. And now I am gathering a couple of sticks that I may go in and prepare it for myself and my son, that we may eat it and die. That we may eat it and die." She is gathering sticks for her last meal. She and her son are going to eat what little they have left, and then they are going to starve to death. The drought Elijah announced has reached even here to Sidon, to Baal's own backyard. And the prophets of Baal have not stopped it. The prayers to Baal have not brought rain. The sacrifices have not worked. Baal, the storm god, is silent. And this widow is dying. Elijah says to her, "Do not fear. Go and do as you have said. But first make me a little cake of it and bring it to me, and afterward make something for yourself and your son. For thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, the jar of flour shall not be spent, and the jug of oil shall not be empty, until the day that the Lord sends rain upon the earth. First make me a little cake." Elijah is asking a starving widow to give him her last bit of food. This is outrageous. This is offensive. This requires faith that borders on insanity. But the widow does it. She goes and does as Elijah said. And she and he and her household ate for many days. The jar of flour was not spent, neither did the jug of oil become empty, according to the word of the Lord that he spoke by Elijah. Every day she reaches into the jar and there is flour. Every day she tips the jug and oil comes out. Not in abundance. Not overflowing. Just enough for that day. It is the same pattern as the manna in the wilderness. God provides daily. God provides enough. God is faithful. But then something terrible happens. After this, the text says, the son of the woman, the mistress of the house, became ill. And his illness was so severe that there was no breath left in him. The boy dies. The widow's son, the one person she has left in the world, dies. And she turns on Elijah. She says to him, "What have you against me, O man of God? You have come to me to bring my sin to remembrance and to cause the death of my son. What have you against me?" She gave Elijah her last meal. She trusted him. She believed the God he proclaimed. The jar of flour did not run out. The oil kept flowing. And now her son is dead. And in her mind it is connected. Somehow, the presence of this holy man has exposed her sin, and God has taken her son as punishment. This is the cry of every person who has ever trusted God and then faced tragedy. What have I done to deserve this? Why did you let this happen? I believed you. I obeyed you. And this is what I get? Elijah does not argue with her. He does not try to explain. He does not offer platitudes. He says, "Give me your son." He takes the boy from her arms and carries him up to the upper chamber where he is lodging, and lays him on his own bed. And then Elijah cries out to the Lord. O Lord my God, have you brought calamity even upon the widow with whom I sojourn by killing her son? Have you brought calamity? Elijah is questioning God. He is not politely suggesting that perhaps there has been a misunderstanding. He is demanding an answer. You sent me here. You told me this widow would feed me. You performed a miracle with the flour and oil. And now her son is dead. What? Then he stretched himself upon the child 3 times and cried to the Lord, O Lord my God, let this child's life come into him again. 3 times Elijah stretches himself on the dead boy. 3 times he prays. And the Lord listened to the voice of Elijah. And the life of the child came into him again and he revived. The boy lives. Elijah takes him and brings him down from the upper chamber into the house and delivers him to his mother. And Elijah says, See, your son lives. And the woman says to Elijah, Now I know that you are a man of God, and that the word of the Lord in your mouth is truth. Now I know. Not when the flour did not run out. Not when the oil kept flowing. When her son died and came back to life. Sometimes, we only really know God when we face the impossible and see him do what only he can do. The widow learns this. Elijah learns this. And Ahab is about to learn it too. Because the time has come for the drought to end. After many days the word of the Lord came to Elijah in the 3rd year, saying, Go, show yourself to Ahab, and I will send rain upon the earth. 3 years. 3.5 years according to the New Testament references to this story. 3.5 years of no rain. No dew. No moisture. The land is devastated. Crops have failed. Animals are dying. People are starving. And it is all because of Elijah's word. Because Elijah said, There shall be neither dew nor rain these years, except by my word. Now God is sending him back to Ahab with a new word. Rain is coming. But first there has to be a confrontation. Elijah goes. Meanwhile in Samaria the situation is desperate. The text says, Now the famine was severe in Samaria. Ahab summons Obadiah, the man in charge of his household, the one who hid 100 prophets in caves. Ahab says to him, Go through the land to all the springs of water and to all the valleys. Perhaps we may find grass and save the horses and mules alive, and not lose some of the animals. The king of Israel is personally searching for grass to keep his horses alive. That is how bad it is. They divide the land between them. Ahab goes one way. Obadiah goes another. And as Obadiah is on the way, Elijah meets him. Obadiah recognizes him and falls on his face and says, Is it you, my lord Elijah? And Elijah says, It is I. Go tell your lord, behold, Elijah is here. And Obadiah panics. He says, How have I sinned that you would give your servant into the hand of Ahab to kill me? As the Lord your God lives, there is no nation or kingdom where my Lord has not sent to seek you. And when they would say, He is not here, he would take an oath of the kingdom or nation, that they had not found you. And now you say, Go tell your Lord, behold, Elijah is here. And as soon as I have gone from you, the Spirit of the Lord will carry you I know not where. And so, when I come and tell Ahab and he cannot find you, he will kill me. Obadiah is terrified. He knows what Ahab has been doing. Searching every nation and kingdom for Elijah. Making them swear oaths that they have not seen him. Ahab wants Elijah dead. And now Obadiah is supposed to go tell Ahab that Elijah is here, and then what if Elijah disappears again? Ahab will blame Obadiah and kill him. But Elijah swears an oath. As the Lord of hosts lives before whom I stand, I will surely show myself to him today. I will show myself. Not run. Not hide. Show myself. So Obadiah goes to meet Ahab and tells him. And Ahab goes to meet Elijah. When Ahab sees Elijah, he says to him, Is it you, you troubler of Israel? You troubler of Israel. In Ahab's mind, Elijah is the problem. Elijah announced the drought. Therefore Elijah caused the drought. The drought has brought famine and suffering. Therefore Elijah is responsible for the suffering. Elijah is the troubler of Israel. It is the logic of every corrupt leader in history. When things go wrong, blame the prophet. Blame the whistleblower. Blame the one who points out the problem instead of addressing the problem itself. But Elijah does not accept the accusation. He says, I have not troubled Israel, but you have, and your father's house, because you have abandoned the commandments of the Lord and followed the Baals. I have not troubled Israel. You have. You Ahab. You and your father Omri and your evil dynasty. You abandoned the commandments of the Lord. You followed the Baals. Plural. Not just Baal. The Baals. All the local manifestations of Baal worship that have infested the land. You are the troubler Ahab. And now Elijah issues a challenge. Now therefore send and gather all Israel to me at Mount Carmel, and the 450 prophets of Baal and the 400 prophets of Asherah, who eat at Jezebel's table. Gather all Israel. Gather the 450 prophets of Baal. Gather the 400 prophets of Asherah. Bring them to Mount Carmel. We are going to settle this, once and for all. Who is God? The Lord? Or Baal? And Ahab astonishingly agrees. Why does he agree? Maybe because he is desperate. The famine is killing his kingdom. Maybe because he is curious. He wants to see what Elijah will do. Maybe because he thinks the prophets of Baal will win. After all, there are 850 of them and only one of Elijah. Whatever the reason, Ahab sends word throughout all Israel and gathers the prophets together at Mount Carmel. The stage is set. Mount Carmel is on the coast. From its summit you can see the Mediterranean Sea. You can feel the wind coming off the water. It is a high place, a place of worship. There are altars here already. Altars to Baal. Altars to other gods. And now all Israel is coming. Can you imagine the scene? Thousands of people making their way up the mountain. Talking, speculating, wondering what is about to happen. The 450 prophets of Baal, confident, dressed in their robes, carrying their ritual implements. The 400 prophets of Asherah, supported by the queen, powerful, influential. King Ahab watching, waiting. And Elijah, alone. One man against 850. One voice against a chorus. One prophet against an empire. The people gather. The prophets take their positions. And Elijah steps forward. He looks at the crowd. He sees the confusion on their faces. The fear. The uncertainty. These are people who have been told for years that Baal is God. That Baal brings rain. That Baal provides. That Baal is the one to worship if you want to prosper. But Baal has not brought rain for 3 years. And yet they are still here. Still wavering. Still unsure. Elijah speaks. How long will you go limping between two different opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him, but if Baal, then follow him. How long will you go limping? The Hebrew word is pasach. It means to limp, to hobble, to dance on two legs, to waver. You are limping between two opinions. You cannot decide. You want to worship the Lord and Baal. You want to hedge your bets. You want to keep your options open. But that is not how it works. If the Lord is God, follow him. Fully. Completely. Without reservation. But if Baal is God, then follow Baal. Commit. Go all in. But stop limping. Stop wavering. Stop trying to have it both ways. Choose. The text says, and the people did not answer him a word. Silence. No one speaks. No one is willing to make the choice. So Elijah continues. I only am left a prophet of the Lord, but Baal's prophets are 450 men. Let 2 bulls be given to us, and let them choose 1 bull for themselves and cut it in pieces and lay it on the wood, but put no fire to it. And I will prepare the other bull and lay it on the wood and put no fire to it. And you call upon the name of your God, and I will call upon the name of the Lord, and the God who answers by fire, he is God. The God who answers by fire, he is God. This is the test. Not arguments. Not debates. Not philosophy or theology or persuasive speech. Action. Demonstration. Proof. You call on your God. I will call on my God. And whichever one answers, that is God. Simple. Clear. Undeniable. And all the people answered, it is well spoken. It is well spoken. Finally the people respond. They agree to the test. Because deep down they want to know too. Who is God? Who is real? Who answers? Elijah says to the prophets of Baal, choose for yourselves 1 bull and prepare it first, for you are many, and call upon the name of your God, but put no fire to it. You go first. You are many. You have the numbers. You have the resources. You have the institutional support. Show us what Baal can do. So they take the bull that is given to them and they prepare it. They cut it in pieces. They lay it on the wood. They arrange everything properly according to their rituals. And then they call upon the name of Baal. O Baal, answer us. O Baal, answer us. They cry out from morning until noon. Hours pass. The sun rises higher in the sky. The heat intensifies. O Baal, answer us. O Baal, answer us. They are not quiet about it. They are not polite. They are shouting, pleading, begging. Answer us. Show yourself. Send the fire. Prove that you are God. But the text says there was no voice and no one answered. No voice. No answer. Nothing. The altar sits there, wood and meat, waiting for fire that does not come. And they limp around the altar that they had made. The same word Elijah used for the people. The prophets of Baal are doing exactly what the people are doing. Limping. Wavering. Going through the motions without power. At noon Elijah begins to mock them. Cry aloud, for he is a god. Either he is musing or he is relieving himself or he is on a journey, or perhaps he is asleep and must be awakened. Cry aloud, louder. He cannot hear you. Maybe he is deep in thought. Maybe he is preoccupied. Maybe he is busy with something else. Or maybe he is relieving himself. The Hebrew is more graphic than most translations render it. Elijah is saying, maybe your God is on the toilet. Or maybe he is on a journey. Maybe he went somewhere and forgot to tell you. Or maybe he is asleep. Maybe you need to wake him up. This is savage mockery. This is Elijah publicly humiliating the prophets of Baal in front of all Israel. And it works. The prophets of Baal get more desperate. They cry aloud, louder, louder still. Their voices echo across the mountain. O Baal, answer us, answer us. And then they start cutting themselves. The text says they cut themselves after their custom with swords and lances, until the blood gushed out upon them. This is their custom. This is what they do. They believe that blood will get Baal's attention. That pain will move him. That self-mutilation will prove their devotion. So they slash themselves with swords, with lances, with whatever sharp instruments they have. Blood flows. It runs down their bodies. It drips onto the ground. It stains the altar. And still nothing. Midday passes. They continue their raving until the time of the offering of the oblation. Raving. The Hebrew word is naba. It can mean to prophesy, but in this context, it means to rave, to act like a madman, to lose control. They are frenzied, ecstatic, out of their minds, blood and sweat and tears. Hours of shouting, hours of dancing, hours of cutting. And the text repeats the verdict. There was no voice. No one answered. No one paid attention. No voice. No answer. No attention. Baal is silent. Baal is absent. Baal is not there. Can you imagine the scene? 450 men, bloody, exhausted, hoarse from screaming. An altar piled with wood and meat, cold and lifeless. The crowd watching, waiting, beginning to realize that maybe, just maybe, Baal is not who they thought he was. And through it all, Elijah stands. Calm, patient, waiting, because he knows something they do not know. He knows who is about to show up. Evening is approaching. The time of the offering of the oblation. The evening sacrifice. The prophets of Baal are spent, exhausted, failed. And Elijah says to all the people, come near to me. Come near. Come close. Watch what I am about to do. Do not miss a single detail. And all the people come near to him. Elijah goes to the altar of the Lord that had been thrown down. There is an altar to the Lord on Mount Carmel. There has been for generations. But it has been thrown down, destroyed, neglected, abandoned. Because Israel has abandoned the Lord. But Elijah is about to rebuild it. He takes 12 stones, according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Jacob, to whom the word of the Lord came, saying, Israel shall be your name. 12 stones. One for each tribe. This is significant. The kingdom is divided. 10 tribes in the north under Ahab. 2 tribes in the south under Rehoboam's descendants. But Elijah takes 12 stones. Because in God's eyes, Israel is still one people. Still 12 tribes. Still the descendants of Jacob, whose name God changed to Israel. The division is political. But the covenant is eternal. With the stones he builds an altar in the name of the Lord. In the name of the Lord. Not Baal. Not Asherah. Not any other god. The Lord, Yahweh. The covenant God. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And he makes a trench about the altar, as great as would contain 2 seahs of seed. A trench. A channel dug around the altar. What? We are about to find out. And he puts the wood in order and cuts the bull in pieces and lays it on the wood. Everything is prepared. Just like the prophets of Baal prepared their altar. But now, Elijah does something strange. He says, fill 4 jars with water and pour it on the burnt offering and on the wood. Water. In the middle of a 3-year drought. Where did they get water? Maybe from the Mediterranean, right there at the base of the mountain. Maybe from a spring. The text does not say. But they find water. They fill 4 jars. And they pour it on the offering and the wood. And then Elijah says, do it a second time. And they do it a second time. And he says, do it a third time. And they do it a third time. 12 jars of water. Poured over the altar. Over the wood. Over the sacrifice. And the water runs around the altar and fills the trench also. Everything is soaked, drenched, saturated. This is impossible to light by natural means. Wet wood does not burn. Elijah is making it absolutely clear that what is about to happen cannot be explained by human effort or natural causes. If fire falls on this altar, it will be from God, and God alone. At the time of the offering of the oblation, the prophet Elijah came near. He steps forward. The crowd is silent. The prophets of Baal, bloody and defeated, watch. Ahab watches. All Israel watches. And Elijah prays. Not with shouting. Not with frenzy. Not with blood. With simple, direct words. O Lord, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known this day that you are God in Israel, and that I am your servant, and that I have done all these things at your word. Listen to this prayer. First, he addresses God by name. Not a generic God. Not a distant deity. The Lord, Yahweh, the God of the covenant. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel. The God who made promises to the patriarchs. The God who chose Israel. The God who has a history with this people. Let it be known this day that you are God in Israel. This is the whole point. Not that Elijah is a powerful prophet. Not that Elijah can call down fire. But that the Lord is God. In Israel. Among his people. Still present. Still powerful. Still faithful. And that I am your servant, and that I have done all these things at your word. This is not Elijah's idea. This is not a publicity stunt. This is not ego or pride. This is obedience. God told Elijah to do this. And Elijah is doing it. Then Elijah continues. Answer me, O Lord, answer me, that this people may know that you, O Lord, are God, and that you have turned their hearts back. Answer me. Not for my sake. Not to prove me right. Not to make me look good. But so that this people may know. So that Israel, wavering and confused and limping between two opinions, may finally know. You, O Lord, are God. Not Baal. Not Asherah. Not the gods of the nations. And that you have turned their hearts back. Not that they have turned their own hearts. But that you have turned them. Because repentance is a gift. Return is a grace. Coming back to God is not a human achievement but a divine work. Elijah prays for God to turn the people's hearts back to him. Short prayer. 63 words in Hebrew. No repetition. No frenzy. No manipulation. Just a simple, honest request. Answer me so that your people may know that you are God. And then, silence. Elijah stops speaking. The crowd holds its breath. The altar sits there, soaked with water, wood dripping, sacrifice waiting. What will happen? Will God answer? Will fire fall? Or will there be silence like with Baal? Then the fire of the Lord fell. Fire. From heaven. Sudden. Instant. Undeniable. Not a spark. Not a smolder. Not a gradual kindling. Fire. The fire of the Lord. And it consumed the burnt offering and the wood and the stones and the dust, and licked up the water that was in the trench. Read that carefully. It consumed the burnt offering. Yes, that is what fire does to meat. And the wood. Yes, fire burns wood. Even wet wood if the fire is hot enough. But then. And the stones. Fire consumed the stones. The altar itself, the 12 stones that Elijah carefully arranged, the stones representing the 12 tribes, the stones built in the name of the Lord. Gone. Consumed by fire. And the dust. Even the dust on the ground. Burnt. Vaporized. And licked up the water that was in the trench. The water that was poured 12 jars deep, that filled the trench, that soaked everything. Gone. Evaporated in an instant by the intensity of the fire. This is not natural fire. This is not fire that could be produced by human means. This is the fire of the Lord. The same fire that appeared to Moses in the burning bush. The same fire that led Israel through the wilderness as a pillar of fire by night. The same fire that consumed the sacrifices when the tabernacle was dedicated, when Aaron made the first offerings. The same fire that filled the temple when Solomon dedicated it. The fire of the presence of God. And it falls on Mount Carmel in response to the prayer of one man. One faithful prophet. One voice crying in the wilderness, calling Israel back to the Lord. And when all the people saw it, they fell on their faces. They do not cheer. They do not applaud. They do not celebrate. They fall. On their faces. Prostrate. Humbled. Undone. Because they have just witnessed the power of God. And they say, the Lord, He is God. The Lord, He is God. Not Baal. Not Asherah. Not any of the gods they have been chasing after. The Lord, He is God. They say it twice. The Lord, He is God. The Lord, He is God. This is confession. This is repentance. This is acknowledgement of truth. For 3 years they have limped between two opinions. 4 years before that they have worshipped Baal and the Lord, trying to have it both ways. But now the evidence is undeniable. Fire fell from heaven. Baal did not answer. The Lord did. Baal is silent. The Lord is present. Baal is powerless. The Lord is almighty. The Lord, He is God. This is the moment the entire confrontation has been building toward. Not the fire itself, spectacular as it is. But the response, the recognition, the return. The people know. Finally they know. But knowing is not enough. There are consequences for what has happened here. Elijah says to them, "Seize the prophets of Baal, let not one of them escape." Seize them. All 450 of them. Do not let any escape. And they seize them. The people, moments ago falling on their faces in worship, now rise and grab the prophets of Baal. These prophets who have led Israel astray, who have taught them to worship false gods, who have eaten at Jezebel's table while she murdered the prophets of the Lord, who have spent the day cutting themselves and crying out to a God who does not exist. They are seized. And Elijah brings them down to the brook Kishon and slaughters them there. Slaughters. The Hebrew word is shachat. It means to kill, to slaughter, to execute. All 450 prophets of Baal are killed. This is shocking to our modern sensibilities. We want the story to end with the fire, with the confession, with the people's repentance. We do not want this part. But this part is essential. Because according to the law God gave Israel through Moses, the punishment for leading people into idolatry is death. Deuteronomy chapter 13. If a prophet or a dreamer of dreams arises among you and gives you a sign or a wonder, and the sign or wonder that he tells you comes to pass, and if he says, "Let us go after other gods which you have not known, and let us serve them," you shall not listen to the words of that prophet or that dreamer of dreams. That prophet or that dreamer of dreams shall be put to death, because he has taught rebellion against the Lord your God. The prophets of Baal have taught rebellion against the Lord. They have led Israel into idolatry. They have caused the nation to turn away from the covenant. And the penalty is death. Elijah is not acting out of personal vendetta or revenge. He is executing the justice of God according to the law. It is harsh. It is violent. It is uncomfortable. But it is also necessary. Because sin has consequences. Rebellion has a price. Leading people away from the living God is not a minor offense. It is deadly serious. And it must be dealt with. The brook Kishon runs red with blood. 450 prophets dead. The false worship purged from Israel at least for this moment. And now the rain can come. Elijah says to Ahab, "Go up, eat and drink, for there is a sound of the rushing of rain. Go eat and drink. The rain is coming." How does Elijah know? He hears the sound of the rushing of rain. Not the rain itself. Not yet. But the sound of it. The approach of it. The promise of it. Faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Elijah hears what is not yet audible to anyone else. He knows the rain is coming because God promised it. So Ahab goes up to eat and drink. But Elijah goes up to the top of Carmel. And he bows himself down on the earth and puts his face between his knees. This is the posture of intense prayer. Humbled, focused, waiting. Elijah has just called down fire from heaven. But now he has to pray for rain. You would think after the fire the rain would be automatic. God would just send it. Elijah could relax. But no. Elijah prays. 7 times he prays. He says to his servant, "Go up now, look toward the sea." The servant goes up and looks and says, "There is nothing. Nothing. No clouds. No sign of rain. Just clear sky." And Elijah says, "Go again 7 times. Go again. Keep looking. Keep watching." The servant goes back. Looks. Returns. There is nothing. Go again. 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 And at the 7th time, the servant says, "Behold, a little cloud like a man's hand is rising from the sea." A little cloud. The size of a man's hand. Tiny. Insignificant. But Elijah knows what it means. He says, "Go up, say to Ahab, prepare your chariot and go down lest the rain stop you. Lest the rain stop you. The rain is coming. And it is coming fast. Get down the mountain before you get caught in it." And in a little while the heavens grew black with clouds and wind, and there was a great rain. A great rain. After 3 years of drought, the sky opens. Clouds roll in. Wind picks up. And rain pours down. Not a drizzle. Not a sprinkle. A great rain. A deluge. The kind of rain that only God can send. And Ahab rode and went to Jezreel. He gets in his chariot and races down the mountain, heading for Jezreel, his winter palace. But something extraordinary happens. The hand of the Lord was on Elijah, and he gathered up his garment and ran before Ahab to the entrance of Jezreel. Elijah runs. A man who has just spent the entire day on the mountain, confronting prophets, praying, executing false teachers, now runs. Supernaturally empowered by the hand of the Lord, he runs ahead of Ahab's chariot. It is about 20 miles from Mount Carmel to Jezreel. And Elijah, on foot, outruns the king's horses. Wow. maybe to honor the king, to run before him as a herald, maybe to demonstrate that the power that brought fire and rain is still present, still active. Maybe because Elijah is filled with the adrenaline and joy of seeing God move, and he cannot contain it. Whatever the reason, Elijah runs. And he arrives at Jezreel ahead of Ahab. Victorious, vindicated, proven right. God has answered. Fire fell. Rain came. The people confessed. The false prophets are dead. Everything has gone according to plan. Elijah should be celebrating. But there is one person who has not yet weighed in on the events of the day. Jezebel. Ahab tells Jezebel all that Elijah had done, and how he had killed all the prophets with the sword. All that Elijah had done. The confrontation. The fire. The confession of the people. The execution of the 450 prophets of Baal. Jezebel's prophets. The men she supported. The men she fed at her table. The men who represented her power and her religion. Dead. All of them. How does Jezebel respond? Does she fall on her face and say, "The Lord, He is God"? Does she repent? Does she acknowledge the truth? No. She sends a messenger to Elijah, saying, "So may the gods do to me and more also, if I do not make your life as the life of one of them by this time tomorrow. So may the gods do to me." Even now, even after everything, she invokes the gods. Plural. Not the Lord. The gods. She has not changed. She has not repented. She has learned nothing. And she threatens Elijah. By this time tomorrow you will be dead. Just like my prophets are dead, you will be dead. This is a formal oath. A binding vow. Jezebel is publicly declaring her intention to kill Elijah. And she sends this message through a messenger. What? Why not just send soldiers to seize him? Why warn him? Maybe because she wants him to run. Maybe because she knows that if she kills him publicly, the people who just confessed that the Lord is God might riot. But if Elijah runs, if he flees in fear, it will undermine everything that happened on Mount Carmel. It will look like he is afraid. Like he does not really trust God. Like the fire was a fluke. Jezebel is brilliant. And ruthless. And her plan works. Then he was afraid. Elijah, who stood alone against 450 prophets. Elijah, who mocked them and called down fire from heaven. Elijah, who executed them all. Elijah, who outran a chariot in the rain. He was afraid. And he arose and ran for his life. He runs. Not toward Jezreel. Not toward confrontation. Away. So. Toward Judah. Toward the wilderness. He goes to Beersheba, which belongs to Judah, and left his servant there. He leaves his servant behind. What? Maybe for the servant's safety. Maybe because Elijah wants to be alone. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness and came and sat down under a broom tree. A broom tree. A desert shrub. Sparse shade in the burning wilderness. Elijah sits. Alone. Exhausted. Afraid. And he asks that he might die. It is enough. Now, O Lord, take away my life, for I am no better than my fathers. Take away my life. Elijah wants to die. The man who just saw God send fire from heaven wants to die. Why? Because he is exhausted. Physically, emotionally, spiritually. Because he thought that after Mount Carmel, everything would change. Israel would repent. Ahab would turn to God. Jezebel would be defeated. But nothing has changed. Jezebel is still in power. Still threatening. Still evil. And Elijah is alone. Again. Still. I'm no better than my fathers. My fathers, the prophets before me, tried to turn Israel back to God. And they failed. And they died. And I have tried. And I have failed. And now I am going to die too. What was the point? What was Mount Carmel for if Jezebel is still in power? What was the fire for if the queen still worships Baal? It is enough. I give up. Just let me die. And he lies down and sleeps under the broom tree. This is depression. This is burnout. This is the crash that comes after the adrenaline fades. This is what happens when you fight a battle alone and then realize the war is not over. Elijah, the great prophet, the man of faith, lies in the wilderness and wants to die. And God does not rebuke him. And behold, an angel touched him and said to him, "Arise and eat." An angel. Not a voice from heaven saying, "Get up, you coward, what are you doing?" Not a rebuke. Not a sermon. Not a lecture. An angel. A messenger from God. Who touches him gently. And says, "Arise and eat." You need food. You need rest. You need care. Elijah looks, and behold, there is at his head a cake baked on hot stones and a jar of water. God has provided. In the wilderness, where there is nothing, God has provided bread and water. Just like he provided manna for Israel in the wilderness after the Exodus. Just like he provided for the widow of Zarephath with flour and oil that never ran out. God provides. Elijah eats and drinks and lies down again. The angel comes a second time and touches him and says, "Arise and eat, for the journey is too great for you." Arise and eat. Again. You need more. The journey is too great for you. God knows what Elijah is about to face, and he is preparing him for it. Physically, practically, with food and water. So he arose and ate and drank, and went in the strength of that food 40 days and 40 nights to Horeb, the mount of God. 40 days and 40 nights. On the strength of 2 meals provided by an angel, Elijah walks for 40 days. Supernaturally sustained. Heading to Horeb. Horeb is another name for Mount Sinai, the mountain where God gave the law to Moses. The mountain where God made the covenant with Israel. The mountain where God revealed himself in fire and smoke and thunder. Elijah is going back to the beginning. Back to where it all started. Back to meet God. There he came to a cave and lodged in it. A cave. Elijah, who just stood in front of all Israel, now hides in a cave. Alone. Isolated. Withdrawn. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him, and he said to him, "What are you doing here, Elijah? What are you doing here?" Not, "Why did you run?" Not, "Why are you afraid?" Not, "Why did you give up?" Just, "What are you doing here?" And Elijah pours out his heart. "I have been very jealous for the Lord, the God of hosts. For the people of Israel have forsaken your covenant, thrown down your altars, and killed your prophets with the sword, and I, even I only, am left, and they seek my life to take it away." Listen to this. I have been very jealous for the Lord. I have tried. I have fought. I have stood up for you. The people of Israel have forsaken your covenant. Not me. I have been faithful. They have not. Thrown down your altars. I rebuilt one. On Carmel. Remember? And killed your prophets with the sword. Jezebel did this. And now she wants to kill me too. And I, even I only, am left. I am the last one. The only one. The sole remaining prophet of the Lord. And they seek my life to take it away. So what was the point? Why should I keep going? Elijah feels utterly alone. He believes he is the only faithful one left in all of Israel. And he is exhausted by that burden. And God answers. But not in the way Elijah expects. And he said, "Go out and stand on the mount before the Lord. Go out. Leave the cave. Stop hiding. Come and stand before the Lord." And behold, the Lord passed by. God is about to reveal himself to Elijah. But how? And behold, a great and strong wind tore the mountains and broke in pieces the rocks before the Lord. When? Violent. Powerful. Destructive. The kind of wind that tears mountains apart. The kind of wind that shatters rocks. This is divine power on display. This is the force of the Creator unleashed. But the Lord was not in the wind. God is not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake. The ground shakes. The mountain trembles. Everything Elijah is standing on is unstable, moving, fracturing. This is terrifying. This is overwhelming. But the Lord was not in the earthquake. God is not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, of fire. Fire. The same fire that fell on Mount Carmel. The same fire that consumed the sacrifice and the stones and the dust and the water. Fire, the sign of God's presence. Surely God is in the fire. But the Lord was not in the fire. God is not in the fire. And after the fire, the sound of a low whisper. A low whisper. Some translations say a still small voice. A gentle whisper. A sound of sheer silence. The Hebrew is called demamadaka. The voice of thin silence. The sound of quiet. After the wind, the earthquake, the fire, all the dramatic displays of power, God speaks in a whisper. Quiet. Gentle. Almost imperceptible. And when Elijah hears it, he wraps his face in his cloak and goes out and stands at the entrance of the cave. He covers his face. Because you cannot look at God and live. Because this is holy. Because in the whisper, God is present. And behold, there came a voice to him and said, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" The same question. But now, after the wind and the earthquake and the fire and the whisper, it lands differently. What are you doing here? Why are you hiding? Why are you running? Why are you in a cave when I have work for you to do? And Elijah gives the same answer. I have been very jealous for the Lord, the God of hosts. For the people of Israel have forsaken your covenant, thrown down your altars, and killed your prophets with the sword, and I, even I only, am left, and they seek my life to take it away. Word for word the same response. Nothing has changed in Elijah's mind. He still feels alone. Still feels like the only one. Still feels like giving up. But God is about to correct that perception. And the Lord said to him, "Go, return on your way to the wilderness of Damascus. Go, return. You are not done. You do not get to hide in a cave and die. I have work for you. And when you arrive, you shall anoint Hazael to be king over Syria. And Jehu the son of Nimshi you shall anoint to be king over Israel, and Elisha the son of Shaphat of Abel-Meholah you shall anoint to be prophet in your place. 3 anointings. A new king for Syria. A new king for Israel. A new prophet to succeed Elijah. God is setting in motion the next phase of his plan. Hazael will bring judgment on Israel from the outside. Jehu will bring judgment on the house of Ahab from the inside. Elisha will continue the prophetic ministry after Elijah is gone. Everything is planned. Everything is under control. Elijah is not the only one working. God is orchestrating events across nations and generations. And whoever escapes from the sword of Hazael shall Jehu put to death, and whoever escapes from the sword of Jehu shall Elisha put to death. Judgment is coming. On Ahab. On Jezebel. On all who have led Israel into idolatry. It will not happen all at once. It will take time. But it will happen. And then God says something that shatters Elijah's loneliness. Yet I will leave 7,000 in Israel, all the knees that have not bowed to Baal, and every mouth that has not kissed him. 7,000. 7,000 people in Israel who have not bowed to Baal. 7,000 who have remained faithful. Elijah thought he was alone. But he was never alone. God has preserved a remnant. A faithful few. The people who have not given in. Elijah just did not know about them. Because they were hidden. Scattered. Quiet. Not making grand public stands like Elijah. Just quietly, faithfully refusing to bow. And God knows every one of them. Elijah is not the only one. He never was. And this is the comfort God gives him. You are not alone. I have others. I always have others. The work does not all depend on you. I am God. I will accomplish my purposes. With you or without you. But I choose to work with you. So get up. Go back. Finish the work I have given you. So he departed from there. Elijah leaves Mount Horeb. He goes back to Israel. And he finds Elisha the son of Shaphat, who was plowing with 12 yoke of oxen in front of him, and he was with the 12th. Elisha is working, plowing, farming, living an ordinary life. 12 yoke of oxen. That is a lot of oxen. That suggests wealth. Elisha is not poor. He is not desperate for a better life. He has a good life. A comfortable life. A life of productivity and provision. And Elijah passes by him and casts his cloak upon him. His cloak. His mantle. The symbol of his prophetic authority. Elijah throws it over Elisha as he walks by. A wordless call. A silent commission. Follow me. Be my disciple. Become a prophet. And he left the oxen and ran after Elijah and said, Let me kiss my father and my mother, and then I will follow you. Let me say goodbye. Let me settle my affairs. And Elijah says, Go back again, for what have I done to you? What have I done to you? It is almost a question. Almost a challenge. You are free to choose. I have not forced you. The cloak is a call, not a command. Decide for yourself. And Elisha does. He returns from following him and takes the yoke of oxen and sacrifices them and boils their flesh with the yokes of the oxen and gives it to the people, and they eat. He sacrifices the oxen. He burns the yokes. He is destroying the tools of his trade. Burning the means of his livelihood. This is not a temporary leave of absence. This is not a trial period. This is total commitment. No going back. Then he arises and goes after Elijah and ministers to him. He follows. He serves. He becomes the disciple of the prophet. And from this point on, Elisha will be with Elijah, learning from him, preparing to take his place. The torch is being passed. The next generation is being trained. God's work continues. So what happens after Mount Carmel? Does Israel turn back to God permanently? Does Ahab repent? Does Jezebel change? No. Ahab continues to be weak and wicked. He listens to false prophets. He makes alliances with pagan kings. He eventually dies in battle and dogs lick up his blood, just as Elijah prophesied. Jezebel continues her evil reign. She murders a man named Naboth to steal his vineyard for Ahab. She schemes and manipulates and rules through fear. Until finally years later Jehu comes. The king God told Elijah to anoint. And Jehu executes judgment on the house of Ahab. He kills Jezebel. She is thrown from a window and dogs eat her body, just as Elijah prophesied. But that is later. That is still to come. In the immediate aftermath of Mount Carmel, not much changes. The people confessed the Lord, He is God. But confession without transformation is just words. And Israel continues to drift. Continues to compromise. Continues to chase after other gods. Why? Because one dramatic moment, no matter how powerful, does not undo years of compromise. Because spiritual renewal is not a one-time event. It is a daily choice. Because the human heart is prone to wander, and without constant vigilance, we slip back into old patterns. Mount Carmel was a high point, a moment of clarity, a demonstration of truth. But it was not the end of the story. It was a chapter. An important chapter. A turning point, perhaps. But the story continues. And so does the struggle. And so does the need for prophets who will stand up and say, "The Lord, He is God." In every generation. In every place. In every heart. So what do we learn from this story? What does Mount Carmel teach us all these centuries later? First, God is not one option among many. The question Elijah poses to Israel is the question every human being must answer. How long will you go limping between two different opinions? We live in a world that tells us all gods are the same. All religions lead to the same place. All paths are valid. Just choose what works for you. What makes you feel good. What fits your lifestyle. But Mount Carmel says no. There is a God who is real. And there are gods who are not. There is truth. And there are lies. There is the Lord, who created the heavens and the earth, who spoke the universe into existence, who makes covenants and keeps them. And there are idols, human constructs, projections of our desires. Gods we create to serve us instead of the God we were created to serve. And the difference matters. The difference is everything. Baal did not answer. The Lord did. Baal is silent. The Lord speaks. Baal is absent. The Lord is present. You cannot worship both. You cannot serve both. You cannot commit to both. You have to choose. Second, true faith is demonstrated, not just declared. The prophets of Baal had passion. They had commitment. They had zeal. They cried out for hours. They cut themselves. They bled for their God. But passion is not the same as truth. Sincerity is not the same as reality. You can be sincerely wrong. The test was not who believed harder or who tried more. The test was who answered. And the God who answers by fire, He is God. Christianity is not true because Christians are sincere. It is true because Christ rose from the dead. The resurrection is the fire from heaven. It is the demonstration that Jesus is who He said He is. God does not ask us to believe without evidence. He provides evidence. Overwhelming, undeniable, historical evidence. And then He asks us to respond. Third, standing alone for truth is costly but necessary. Elijah stood alone against 850 prophets. He stood alone against the king and queen. He stood alone against the tide of popular opinion. And it cost him. It cost him safety. It cost him comfort. It cost him peace of mind. It drove him to exhaustion and depression and the edge of despair. But it was necessary. Because if Elijah had not stood, who would have? If Elijah had compromised, if he had gone along with the crowd, if he had stayed silent, Israel would have forgotten the Lord entirely. Sometimes you have to stand alone. Sometimes you have to be the only voice saying, "This is wrong." Sometimes you have to risk everything to tell the truth. And it will cost you. But the alternative is worse. The alternative is watching the truth die without a fight. Fourth, spiritual victories do not guarantee instant transformation. Fire fell. The people confessed. The prophets of Baal were executed. It should have been the end of the story. Israel should have repented. Ahab should have turned to God. Jezebel should have been overthrown. But none of that happened. Not immediately, anyway. Elijah won the battle on Mount Carmel. But the war continued. And this is the pattern of spiritual life. We have moments of breakthrough. Moments where God shows up powerfully. Moments where truth is undeniable. But those moments do not mean the struggle is over. They mean we have strength for the next phase of the struggle. Mount Carmel was not the end for Elijah. It was the beginning of a new chapter. And our moments of spiritual victory are the same. They are fuel. They are encouragement. They are reminders that God is real and God is faithful. But they are not the destination. We are still on the journey. Fifth, God meets us in our weakness. Elijah, the great prophet, the man who called down fire, ran away in fear and wanted to die. And God did not condemn him. God sent an angel with bread and water. God let him sleep. God strengthened him for the journey. God spoke to him in a whisper. God reminded him he was not alone. God gave him a new mission. God was kind. This is the God we serve. Not a God who demands perfection and punishes failure, but a God who knows we are dust, who remembers that we are fragile, who meets us in our weakness and gives us what we need. Elijah did not have to pretend to be strong. He did not have to hide his fear or his despair. He could be honest with God. And God responded with compassion. We can do the same. Sixth, God always has a remnant. Elijah thought he was the only one left. But God had 7,000. 7,000 faithful people Elijah did not know about. This is the pattern throughout Scripture. When it looks like everyone has turned away, God has preserved a faithful few. When it looks like the truth has been lost, God has kept it alive in hidden places. When it looks like the cause is hopeless, God is working in ways we cannot see. You are not alone. Even if you feel alone. Even if you cannot see the others. They are there. God has them. And God is with you. 7th, the battle belongs to the Lord. Elijah prayed. God sent the fire. Elijah prayed. God sent the rain. Elijah stood. But God acted. This is crucial. We are called to faithfulness, not success. We are called to obedience, not outcomes. We are called to stand for truth and let God handle the results. The fire from heaven was not Elijah's achievement. It was God's answer. And the same is true for us. We cannot change hearts. We cannot create faith. We cannot produce revival. Only God can do those things. Our job is to show up, to speak the truth, to build the altar, to pray, and then to trust God to do what only He can do. So here is the question Mount Carmel puts to us. How long will you go limping between two different opinions? What are you trying to serve alongside God? What are you unwilling to let go of? What compromise are you making? Where are you hedging your bets, trying to worship God and something else at the same time? For the Israelites it was Baal. The promise of prosperity. The security of going along with the culture. The ease of worshiping what everyone else worshipped. For us it might be different. Might be money. The belief that financial security will give us the peace and control we crave. It might be success. The belief that achievement and recognition will give us the worth and validation we need. It might be relationships. The belief that another person will complete us and give us the love we lack. It might be comfort. The belief that avoiding pain and difficulty is the highest good. It might be control. The belief that if we can just manage everything perfectly, we will be safe. It might be reputation. The belief that what others think of us is more important than what God knows about us. Whatever it is, you know what it is. It is the thing you turn to when you are anxious. The thing you think about when you wake up. The thing you cannot imagine living without. It is your Baal. And God is saying, choose. Not because He is petty or controlling or insecure, but because He knows that you cannot serve two masters. You cannot trust God and money. One will win. You cannot worship God and success. One will dominate. You cannot rely on God and relationships. One will fail you and it will not be God. The human heart is made to worship one thing fully. To trust one thing ultimately. To build a life on one foundation. And if that foundation is anything other than God, it will crack. It might not crack today. It might not crack this year. But it will crack. Because only God is solid enough to bear the weight of a human soul. Everything else is sand. So the question is, what are you building on? And the call is choose. Choose today. Not tomorrow. Not when it is more convenient. Not when you have everything figured out. Today. If the Lord is God, follow Him. Not partially. Not conditionally. Not with one foot in and one foot out. Follow Him. Trust Him. Obey Him. Build your life on Him. And if something else is God, if money or success or comfort or control or anything else is actually ruling your heart, then at least be honest about it. Stop pretending. Stop limping. Stop trying to have it both ways. Commit. Because half-hearted devotion to God is no devotion at all. And God is not interested in being one option among many. He is not interested in sharing your heart. He made you. He knows you. He loves you. And He wants all of you. Not because He is greedy, but because He knows that anything less will destroy you. Here is the good news. The God who answered Elijah is still answering. The fire that fell on Mount Carmel still falls. Not always literally. Not always visibly. But God is still showing up. Still making Himself known. Still proving that He is real. In transformed lives. In answered prayers. In the testimony of millions who have encountered Him and been changed. In the resurrection of Jesus Christ. The ultimate fire from heaven. The ultimate proof that God is real and God is good and death does not have the final word. Jesus is the answer to the test. The God who answers by fire, He is God. And God answered. He sent His Son. He let Him die on a cross. He raised Him from the dead. And that resurrection is the fire that consumes every doubt, every fear, every excuse. God has spoken. God has acted. God has proven Himself. And now the question is not, is God real? The question is, what will you do about it? Will you bow? Will you confess? Will you commit? Or will you keep limping? The choice is yours. But the evidence is clear. The Lord, He is God. Not might be. Not could be. Not one option among many. Yes. And he is calling you to respond. So we return to the mountain in Moriah. No wait, wrong mountain. We return to Mount Carmel. To a place where fire fell. To a moment when heaven touched earth. To a confrontation that changed everything and nothing all at once. We return to Elijah, the prophet, the troubler of Israel, the man who stood alone, the man who was not perfect, who ran in fear, who wanted to give up, but who, when it mattered most, stood firm, who built the altar, who prayed the prayer, who trusted God to answer. And God did, because God always does. Maybe not in the way we expect, maybe not in the timing we prefer, but God answers. He answers in fire. He answers in whispers. He answers in bread and water provided in the wilderness. He answers in a remnant preserved. He answers in a mission continued. He answers in a mantle passed to the next generation. God answers. And the question is not, will he answer me? The question is, am I asking? Am I building the altar? Am I laying down the sacrifice? Am I trusting him to show up? Or am I still limping? Still divided? Still trying to serve two masters? Elijah teaches us that God is not interested in our divided hearts. He wants all of us, or none of us. He wants full surrender, complete trust, total commitment. Not because he is demanding, but because he is worthy. Because he is the God who created the universe and holds it together. Because he is the God who makes promises and keeps them. Because he is the God who sees the widow and provides for her. Because he is the God who hears the cry of the desperate and answers. Because he is the God who sends fire from heaven when fire from heaven is what is needed. Because he is the God who whispers in the silence when whispers are what we can hear. Because he is the God who says, "You are not alone," when we feel utterly isolated. Because he is the God who gives new missions when we think we are done. Because he is God. And there is no other. The Lord, he is God. This is the confession of Mount Carmel. This is the truth that fire from heaven proved. This is the reality we are invited to build our lives on. Not Baal. Not success. Not money. Not comfort. Not control. The Lord, he is God. And when we truly believe that, when we truly commit to that, everything changes. Not all at once. Not without struggle. But everything changes. Because we are no longer limping. We are no longer divided. We are walking in one direction. Serving one master. Trusting one God. And that God is faithful. He was faithful to Elijah. He will be faithful to you. He answered Elijah. He will answer you. He provided for Elijah. He will provide for you. He used Elijah. He will use you. Not because you are perfect, but because you are willing. Not because you have it all figured out, but because you are trusting. Not because you are strong, but because he is. This is the invitation of Mount Carmel. To stop limping. To choose. To commit. To say with all your heart, the Lord, he is God.